guys, you've got Sammy here. Thanks for tuning in to Hook One and Stitches. We're going to be working through some more simple stitches today. This one will be, first up we'll do the treble crochet stitch in American terms. All of my tutorials, unless I specify at the beginning, will be in American crochet terms as opposed to English, because there are a few differences there. So I've done a chain of 20 just for the sake of this demonstration. You can make that as long or as short as you like. And then I've added 3 extra stitches. And that's because a treble crochet is higher than a single, half double or double. So we need to bring our yarn up a little higher with the chain so that we can ensure that our first stitch is sitting correctly. Now, to do the treble crochet, I'm going to yarn over my hook twice. So from the front to the back, 1 and 2 times. You'll see I kind of hold them on with my finger. Now working back into my chain, I'm going to work into the 4th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to go into that chain space, keeping 1 loop at the bottom, making sure I go through the front and the back loop of the chain. I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. So I have 4 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over again and pull through just 2. So I've got 3 left. Yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through the last 2. And that's my first treble crochet. So I'm going to yarn over 2 times, 1 and 2. I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch, ensuring I go through the front and the back loop. I'm going to yarn over and pull a loop through the chain. So I've got 4 on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through just 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. You can see in comparison to my fingers how much higher that stitch is sitting. Once again, I'm working with a nice thick Aran weight yarn. It's a little bit chunkier, nice and easy to see my stitches, focusing on my tension. I'm using a 5.25mm hook, so anything between a 5 and a 6 with an Aran weight yarn, depending how bulky it is, will work beautifully. Let's do a couple more. Yarning over twice, so 3 loops on the hook, going into the next chain, ensuring I get the front and the back loop on my hook. Yarning over to pull up a loop, gives me 4 loops on my hook. 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through the last 2. Once more, going from the back to the front, I'm yarning over 1, 2 times. Going into my next chain, making sure I get the front and the back loop of the chain. Yarning over and pulling up a hook, pulling up a loop rather. Yarning over and pulling through 2. Yarn over through 2. Yarn over and through the last 2. I'm going to let you guys finish that row off by yourself. I'll meet you on the last stitch. So if you've done a chain of 20, there will be 20 treble crochet. I'll meet you on the last loop to show you how to turn and start our next row. I'll see you all in a moment. Alright, I'm back. You can see that row of treble crochet sitting beautifully, 1 into each chain. We've got our starting chain here, which looks like a little bit of a loop at the moment, but I can assure you once you put your stitch into the top, it's going to sit perfectly to give you nice straight edges. So when we reach the end of our row, we're going to chain 3, chain 4 rather. We're going to turn our work over, and then we're going to start working into stitches. Now we're not going to work into this first stitch because our chain is counting as the first stitch. So I'm going to yarn over twice. I'm going to skip that first stitch, go into the top of the second, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, through 2, yarn over once more, and pull through the last 2. So you can see already that's a little curved, but it will straighten out once we work our stitch into the top. But we're going to have a nice straight edge to our work. So we're going to continue again working all the way across the row with our treble crochet. Now, it might seem a little boring to just be working stitches at the beginning. You can feel a bit like you're not really getting anywhere. These are enough stitches to make a blanket, a scarf, many, many items. But I think it's really important, especially when you're starting out, to get the basic stitches under your belt and feel comfortable with them. As you progress, you're going to find more and more beautiful patterns that you're going to want to complete. And the reality of it is, even the most complicated pattern is just stitches compiled in different ways to create different effects. So after this video, I'm going to start putting up a few little project or granny square videos, so you can see how combining the same stitches in different ways can create amazingly different effects. Now, continue with your treble crochet to the second last stitch, and I will meet you back here to show you how to join into the chain, and we'll do something a little bit different for our next stitch on the next row. I'll see you all soon. Okay, wet double crochet, treble crochet rather, all the way along that row. I've kept count of my stitches to ensure that I have the same amount in both rows. I want to keep those sides nice and straight. Now, to keep this end straight where we're working into our turning chain, a lot of people will go into the loop, into the gap between the turning chain and the stitch. That isn't going to give you a perfectly straight edge. What you actually want to do is work into the top loop of the chain. So not into the gap, into the actual chain itself, working into the top loop, making sure we get both sides, pulling up our yarn to complete our final stitch of the row. You can see, my bottom's buckling a little, you can see that's going to give us a nice straight edge on both sides once we work into that next stitch, and keep our stitch count consistent throughout our project. Alright, I'm going to chain 3 and turn my work. Rather than doing another row of treble crochet, I'm going to show you how to do a back post double crochet. So a chain of 3 is the right height for a double crochet stitch, and the back post crochet is worked in the same way as a normal crochet. The only difference is that we're not actually placing our stitch into the top of the previous stitch as we did on other rows. We're going to yarn over, going to go into the space beside the stitch and put our hook through the next space. So we're putting our hook underneath the stitch from the previous row. I'm going to pull my yarn over the top there and pop it around the back of the stitch, hence the name. This is the post and we're working behind it. And then I'm going to yarn over and complete my double crochet as normal. And you can see straight away how that's sitting up from the remainder of my work. Back post and front post double crochet can be a fantastic way to add some different texture and depth to a project. So we'll go through that a couple more times. Yarning over, going in and behind the actual stitch, the post of the stitch, yarning over to pull up a loop, yarning over, pulling through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So we're working a double crochet just around the stitch rather than into the top of it. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer for this next one. So I've done a yarn over, going in behind the stitch with my hook. So not into the stitch here where we normally would, in behind, yarning over, which can feel a little awkward because we're in essence pulling our working yarn over to the front and then pulling it behind, yarning over through 2, yarning over through 2. And you can see just how differently it's made the stitches on the previous row and our new stitches sit compared to the rest of the work. So these ones are sitting nice and flat and these ones are sitting up and adding some texture. A good way to demonstrate how it can give a project texture, I'll just do a couple of normal double crochet next to it. You don't necessarily have to do this. The aim of this tutorial is to get that front post double crochet under our belt. So you can see there the normal stitch is sitting nice and flat, and the front post double crochet, they do pull forward a little, but they sit off our work quite significantly. So once again, to do the front post double crochet, we yarn over, we go behind the stitch, yarn over, pull a loop behind, yarn over and through 2, yarn over and through 2 to complete our stitch. I'm going to let you guys finish working some front post double crochet. I'll meet you at the end of the row to show you how to finish off, because wrapping around and doing a front post double crochet at the end isn't going to create the straightest of sides, so we'll be working into the chain again with a normal double crochet, just as we did a chain to start. I'll see you back here shortly. Okay, finished working my front post double crochet. You can see even with the same colour where I've done standard and where I've done front post, and the difference in how the stitch sits. Now at the end of the row here, I've just finished doing some front post double crochet, but I need to work into the chain from the turning chain from the previous row. So I'm just going to work a standard double crochet into the very last loop of the chain so that we can maintain nice straight sides and an even finish for that row. You can see the stitch difference there, how it sits differently. Okay, now we've done the front post double crochet, and of course you can repeat that as many times as you want until you feel comfortable, but I'm going to do a chain of 3. We've done the back post double crochet rather. This row we're going to do some front post double crochet. So last time working a double crochet, we were working behind the stitch. This time, rather than going from the front to the back and the back to the front to get behind it, we are going to yarn over and go from the back around the front of our work, grab a loop, pull it through, yarn over, through 2, yarn over, through 2 to complete our stitch. So it can feel very awkward when you're learning this one. Yarning over, going from the back of our work, putting our hook through to the front, around the next stitch and to the back of our work, grabbing a loop, pulling it through around the stitch, yarning over and completing our double crochet, yarn over, go from the back of our work out the front, around the stitch and back to our back, pulling a loop around the stitch, yarning over, through two, yarn over, through two. And you can see how they're sitting at the back of the stitches we've just done. Yarn over, from the back of our work, coming in front of the stitch, yarning over to pull a loop around the front of the stitch, yarn over, through two, yarn over, through two. I'm going to let you guys practice that. Once again, at the end when we're turning, we'll revert to a standard double crochet stitch to work into the top loop of the turning chain from the previous row. I'm going to do a couple more rows, and I'm just going to come back to show you with a different colour. This is a little hard to see. You can see that there's an extra loop sitting there, but if I do a row in a different colour, you will see how the front post and back post double crochet stitches can create a really beautiful pattern on the front side of your work where you've alternated them, especially if you are changing colours between rows. See you all soon. Okay, I finished the row of back post. You can see I've worked my back post over the front post, so I've got quite a deviation in the way my stitches sit. Because we've turned the work, it's like another front post. Now, I just thought I'd join back here now to show you how to join in a new colour. So I've finished off and tied off this end. When I finish whatever I'm working on, I weave the ends in so they can't come loose when the item's being washed. I'm just going to insert into the first stitch, or the last stitch, because we've turned our work, pull up a loop, and then pull it through the slip stitch on my hook, and that is a slip stitch. From there I can just continue my pattern as I was, so I'm going to do a chain of 3, and I wanted to show you the difference that a front or a back post double crochet can do to the look of your work when you are using a different colour. So I'm going to do a front post double crochet here around my first stitch, actually my second stitch, because the starting chain counts as the first stitch when we're working in anything above single crochet. Oops. So working around the stitch, around behind it for the back post double crochet. That gets our stitch sitting forward. So you can see it sits a little differently to a standard crochet stitch. I'm going to do a front post now around the standard double crochets from the previous row. And this last bit of the video is purely to show you the effects that you can achieve with front and back post double crochet, alternating your colour on rows. Oops. Okay, I'm just going to pull that loop up and take my hook out. So you can see where I've worked my back post double crochet, there's just a little hint of that colour where I've worked the loop around the post of the previous row's stitch to bring the colour up behind. And we have the nice chain sitting on the front. Here I've worked front post double crochet, so they sit over the chain, if we turn over, you can see they create the same effect with just a hint of colour on the loop and the chain of the previous rose colour sitting on top. It can be a beautiful effect, and one of the stitches that I've been asked to feature is the waffle stitch. A waffle stitch is front post double crochet and double crochet to create the entire blanket. The only other thing you need to do is a couple of chains each round. So I hope you have found today's tutorial helpful. I would love to hear your feedback, and please subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date. There'll be a lot of videos coming through fairly quickly at the start. And then I'll be releasing some patterns and different things for you all to try. I can't wait to see how you all go with those stitches. Have a fantastic day. Happy hooking!